when you buy a new wing, first of all, you need to consider why you're buying a new wing. So is it because you reach the maximum abilities of your wing? So basically you have an A wing, and what you want to do now is big cross-country flight with big crossings. And yes, then your A wing is going to be a bit of an issue because the glide is not going to be great, the speed is not going to be great. So doing big crossing is going to slow you down, So I think most people, they switch wings because they want a new one. And I would say that most of the time it's important to switch wings because your wing is slowing you down rather than switching because you want a new wing. And that is happening more and more. So people switch wing because they have the money and they want the latest wing that's just been available. So if you have the latest Mentor and you want the new Mentor 7, yes, perfect. I think it's a great idea, to buy a new wing. It supports the manufacturer and everything. But if your wing is an ENA and you want the latest ENC that just went out, this doesn't make sense. You have some steps to follow in order to be safe. So I think that is the thing. If your wing is slowing you down, then it's time to change. And another thing is, as soon as you change, it's important to change in the right time. Because most people, they will change in winter, which is a terrible moment to change your wing. Basically what happens is that you can't fly. So you change like in November, it's the end of the season, you are still pumped about paragliding. So you say, I want a new wing, you change your wing, and then the wing is sitting in your cupboard for like 2 or 3 months. And then suddenly you start in the rough condition of spring with a wing you don't even know. So I would always suggest to change a wing when you are a bit, like you have the ability to fly a lot in the coming weeks, months, because whether it's acro flying or normal flying actually, or cross-country flying, it's important, particularly if you're climbing a category. If you are switching wing and you're not flying for 3 months, it's gonna be a hard step. Like you're gonna scare yourself, you're gonna take 3 steps backward before taking 1 forward. But if you change your wing, you just flown like 50 hours and you have like 60 hours in front of you, you change your wing at that time, you have full confidence and you are building full confidence for the next 60 hours, and then it's winter, and then when you start flying again, you're good. So I think that's important, to switch wing at the right time. It's also good for manufacturers because they get a lot of order at the end of the season, a lot of order at the beginning, and then in the summer is a bit of a dead season. So it's good if you switch wing in the summer.
That's true, yeah. I remember that, yeah. Yeah, so you don't have massive breaks and then you have a new thing in the strongest part of the year.
Yeah, I think it covers it.
Yeah, I think people want to know more about details on wings, but it's just too big of a spectrum to cover. There's too many things.
You could speak like for hours, and it's so personal. Like, for example, some guy can switch to a C wing from a A wing because he is special, and some guy will need to take another B wing after his B wing, like a B wing which is almost the same but slightly faster or slightly more technical, but that is the way it's personal, and it should not be a thing. It should not even be like a personal ambition to fly a bigger wing. It's just you should follow up with who you are and what you are. Paragliding, most people forget, is supposed to be a hobby. It's a job for only 30 of us, something. We are only 30 in the world trying to push and to perform at the highest ability of the wing, but for like the 100 over 1,000 pilots, it's a hobby. So it needs to be fun, it needs to be enjoyable, and it needs to be safe. You need to be able to come back home to your wife or kids or husband or something and saying, I had a good day, it was fun, and no scary stuff. It should be a hobby.
That's true. People forget, they chase the numbers, the distance, the next greatest thing.
And they get lost. They get lost in the fact that paragliding is just a hobby, and it's not. There is no pressure. There should not be pressure about paragliding because it's not your job. It's not. You don't have to achieve anything. You just
enjoy.
You should enjoy. And if achieving is your way to enjoy, then yes, but do it smartly.
Yeah. Because otherwise you'll get hurt physically or mentally.
But the good thing about it is that paragliding is kind of blessed, so you can do the worst shit and most of the time you survive. Except the few that crashes and injures themselves. But most of the people do incredible shit and they always survive and nothing happens. So you can also believe and base all your progress on believing. This has a success rate which is not 100%, but it's fairly high for the degree of risk everyone is taking.
the wings themselves is quite safe.
Yeah, everything is
overall.
made. I mean, the manufacturers are taking great concerns and the certification to ensure that the wings are as safe as they should be, but you cannot plan for everything and you cannot anticipate everything.
And you also can't test for everything. There's a certain things you can't measure.
And that is the thing everyone is saying, but the certification is not close to the real life conditions, but you cannot test all the real life conditions.
You can't. How do you repeat?
You have to put rules so that it's for the same for everyone. And then, I mean, we are doing a sport which is in the mountains, in the air, everything is different, everything is changing. You can
It's like
see
taking
so many stuff.
a rowboat in an ocean and saying that, oh, it wasn't good made for it. It wasn't. It was for a lake, not for like it's. You can't measure the energies of the waves and all that as precisely to repeat it every single time.
It's different. It's a fluid. The air is moving, and something you can be in the lee side that were not there the day before, and the direction of the wing switched 2 degrees, and it's horrible conditions.
The cloud moved and sun came a bit more, and so on and so forth.
And then you can get a big collapse, which is collapsing like 2% more than where it should have, and the reopening is totally different because the wing collapsed in a different way. Like
or you put the weight shift a bit here or there, or you
so
put the brake here or there, or didn't put it or whatever.
So you can't blame behavior on the manufacturers and on the certification because they are doing their best.
Yes.
Sometimes something are missing, sometimes there are mistakes, but I mean
it's
and we are flying in something that is moving all the time. Everything is changing.
Also, worth noting about certification is that it's relatively new. Like by now it's probably 15-ish years. The EN certification that came
the
out.
EN,
and it made things safer, a lot safer than it was before.
For sure. And clearer, and a lot clearer than I remember. The GHV certification was quite unclear. No, it's a lot clearer, and yet it's not perfect. And yes, it's not. How do you say? It's not the same for every certification center. It's not the same everywhere, but it's as close as it should be, and they are really making their best.
It has to be measurable and repeatable.
I mean, I've been to a lot of certifications, and they are doing their best. Really, the guys there. They are trying their best to do the exact same to any wing and to be like really professional. But you know, they are flying at 8 a.m. and they are flying at 2 p.m. and already it's different condition, it's different air mass, everything is different, and already you will see different behavior. So they are trying their best to sort out the mess that paragliding is, but you cannot do everything.
It's really, really difficult. I've done a few testing together with them, and it's. I mean, they work a lot and they've dedicated their lives to testing. These are professional test pilots.
And they are very good. It's just you
really,
cannot
really
plan
good.
everything.
It's impressive.
Yeah.
To repeat the same collapse, try. Repeat the same exact collapse over and over and over again, 10 times in a row, and see how many times you're going to get it exactly as you want it. It's really hard.
It's so usually we blame certification and manufacturers for mistake which they could not have predicted. Something even like the construction of a paraglider is impossible to predict. We are sewing stuff like which are 15-20 meters wide, and we expect less than a 1 centimeter or half a centimeter difference in some places, you know, and already this centimeter is making a difference somewhere. So we have to accept that.
And it is stitched by humans.
Also,
not robots or humans make mistakes all across of the production line, from the lines manufacturing to fabric to
and it's
everything.
It's impossible to get twice the exact same glider, and we have to accept it in paragliding. And people usually who fly paragliding have no idea about that, so they're like, "Fuck, my wing is not exactly the same, or the behavior is not as I was told it was gonna be." Etc., etc. But it's impossible to make twice the same wing, so how can we do?
Yeah, but you can also put it in wet grass and then put it a bit in the sunshine, and that will change things.
Yeah, exactly. So it's important to just remind yourself that we are flying paragliding because it's easy, because it's an aircraft that can be packed into a tiny bag and bring everywhere and take off from everywhere. But it's come also with the fact that to build it, we are building them by hand, one by one. And
it's built out of cloth.
Out of cloth, which is moving, which is
stretching, changing.
And already, I think the safety and the reliability is incredible. We don't get, we almost never get a wing which is unsafe to fly. You know, it never happens. Out of hundreds of thousands of wings produced, you know, we get almost none which are unsafe to fly, and it's quite incredible already what we achieved, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's true. It's the differences people talk is small,
Yeah.
and they are expected because it is I mean, a sweater is easy to stitch comparing to paragliding.
Yeah, and the small mistake won't be noticed anyway.
And check your t-shirts that you buy in a Decathlon or whatever, they're not the same.
Yeah,
and that's a t-shirt. That's a simple thing to make out of what? 4 different pieces.
It's...
And paragliding has hundreds, if not thousands, little pieces from top of my head.
Yeah.
Like the cuts you have to make, the internal structure is crazy. Like it's a massive amount of parts that has to go together in a as close to perfection as possible.
And
done by
I think
humans.
It's done quite well.
Yes, I would agree. It's quite impressive. And I've spent some time in the company in the design part. Like it takes a lot of effort to make a wing. It's not easy.
Yeah, that is for sure.
That covers that.
I think.